2024 was an awesome year for disc golf, and you all found a lot of new discs that you enjoyed throwing. My name's Hunter Thomas. I run a website called foundationdiscs.com, and I'm going to go over our top 25 best-selling discs from 2024. I'm just go ahead and spoil for you. There are some in the top 10 that are going to surprise you almost without a shadow of a doubt. I actually had our team guess what disc came in like top 5, and pretty much none of them were right. So absolutely stoked to be sharing this with you, but let's go ahead and kick it off. Starting at number 25, we have the Discraft Nuke. This makes a lot of sense. A lot of people really like the Nuke for their go-to distance drivers, coming in at like a 13 speed, and you have people like Brody Smith, Ezra Aderhold pushing this disc. People really enjoy it, and our fan base is no different there. The Nuke sold pretty well all year long, beating out a lot of other popular distance drivers, but snuck into the top 25 coming in there. Coming in number 24, we have a new release from Innova, which was the Gorgon, or Gorgon. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it because it's a little bit of a weird word, but this flippy 10-ish speed, could push up to 11 speed, but I believe it's a 10 speed, really took the world by storm. People absolutely loved it. When we first came out, the first few runs of it on our site sold out pretty much instantly. And then in addition to that, we got like the Halloween ones, which are like this sick color glow and everything. And people really, really enjoyed throwing this disc. I think it was a disc that for a lot of people around that like 300-foot mark really unlocked the next distance category for them. So no shock to see the Gorgon in the top 25. Slipping down to the 23rd spot, we had the MVP Glitch. This is a disc that when it first came out took the world by storm. I believe that was last year. As times went on, a lot of people have tried it out. It still is very popular, coming in the top 25, but it's nowhere near as high as a lot of people might expect, given that a lot of people throw it. But I think a lot of people have already kind of tried it out, and it is a hybrid catch disc, so it's a unique audience for people who are actually regularly throwing it out there. So still sold a lot of them throughout the year, still was able to break in the top 25, but probably a little bit lower than some people were expecting. Coming in at number 22, we have another new release, which was the Discraft Cicada. This disc is awesome. The first run actually was a little bit more overstable than how the stock run ended up being, and I think this upcoming year we're going to actually see a Cicada OS be released. I don't know what they're going to title it, but Anthony Barella teased that in his announcement video. But the Discraft Cicada is this money flip-up 7-speed that a lot of people have been really enjoying. No surprise to see it in its year of release in the top 25, and honestly, had we bought more, had we had more in stock, it probably would have been a little bit higher because it sold out the first few times almost instantly. So it's settled into just being a consistent seller now, and I think it's a staple in Discraft's lineup. Number 21 comes in with the Discraft Meteor. This mid-range from Discraft is still pulls its weight. It's a little bit of an older disc, but it's a beautiful flyer. Brody Smith absolutely loves it. It's a hyzer flip machine, and I think what actually aided in this is with our relationship with Brody, we got some of the Team Discraft stamped stuff for Brody. So we got like some of the Get Flippies and stuff like that. And some of those runs sold really, really well. So in addition to the stock Meteor sales that were strong all year, we also had some of the Brody Smith ones that helped push it up this list a little bit farther. Now coming in at number 20, this one actually surprises me a little bit because I didn't think it was as popular as it was, especially with this player going away from it as their Tour Series disc this year, the Discraft Luna. The Luna still pulls its weight, still has a lot of people out there throwing it, a lot of people out there enjoying it. I think that one of the things that really helped with this was the release of I believe it was the putter blend, the hard and soft putter blend happened this year. And so what that allowed is people to get their hands on a Luna at a more affordable price. Previously being just in the rubber blend or like Tour Series and stuff, the cheapest you could get a Luna was like $20. Switching over to having that like putter line allowed you to get your hands on the Luna closer to like $14, which I think a lot of people really enjoyed. So some people who maybe went away from the Luna came back to it. And again, this is the first year that we saw Paul go away from it for his Tour Series disc, if I'm remembering correctly. And so that also kind of surprises me that it's still up here without a lot of custom runs or anything like that pulling weight for it. Coming in number 19, we have another new release. You're going to see that trend kind of throughout here, but we had the MVP Detour. So this is kind of like a more overstable version of discs that we've seen with MVP in the past, such as the Uplink or the Paradox. The Detour is a lot more throwable. It's part of the James Conrad line, and people were really excited about this disc when it came out. No surprise there. You've also might notice a trend on this lower half, and really it kind of continues throughout, where people love hyzer flip discs. If a disc is able to be thrown on hyzer and pop up for people, it's a very enticing flight, and it's something that people get really excited about. So no surprise to see MVP having success with a detour, and no surprise to see it this high on the list. This next one I think might surprise some people, although it's near and dear to my heart. I didn't think it was near and dear to as many hearts as it turned out to be. Coming in at number 18, we had the PA3 from Prodigy. When we look back across this year and we wonder why the PA3 is this high, I think really what it is, when I looked at our sales, was the licensing deals that Prodigy was able to do, because a lot of them came from the NHL licensing they did, where they had the black PA3s with the team stamps on top. Most of those were PA3s, and for the most part, they sold pretty well. There's a few teams that we kind of got stuck with, but a lot of the more popular teams sold out pretty quickly. In addition to that, we also had some college stamped PA3s. So like, I think we had Duke, Virginia Tech. We might have had some North Carolina ones, UVA, Liberty, colleges closer to us, and they all sold pretty well. So shout out to Prodigy for having that idea for those licensing. I don't know how profitable it was for them, but it allowed our fans and a lot of other fans of other retailers to be able to get their hands on NHL and collegiate stamped discs for still pretty reasonably priced. I think they could have ended up being more expensive than they were, but they came in around that like $14 mark, and so the PA3 sold really well thanks to that. Coming in at number 17, we have the Discraft Raptor. This disc is just always popular. It's a staple in so many players' bags, and it is important to note that this doesn't factor the Captain's Raptor. I factored that as a completely different disc. Captain's Raptor didn't end up making the top 25, but the Raptor did. Especially with the Tour Series this year being that Z-Flex Jawbreaker, Aaron Gossage's name on that thing, it sold very well, and the Raptor in general just has so many different plastic varieties, so many people throw it for so many different things. It makes a lot of sense for it to be up here on this list. The next one up is also no surprise to the top 25 and would be a lot higher if we were able to have consistent stock throughout the year. Coming in number 16, we have the MVP Hex. This is like the big brother of the Detour. It's a little bit more overstable, but still gives you that hyzer flip flight that so many people crave and desire. And MVP fans and really just disc golf throwers in general absolutely love the Hex. And there's a lot of times throughout the year that we got the Hex in and we underbought. We didn't buy as many as we probably should have. And so we would sell out, and then it wouldn't be available from MVP for us to buy for a little while. And so there was definitely some down periods where had we had Hexes in stock, we probably could have sold out of them a little bit faster, and this would have bumped it up the list a little bit more. But it's better to have them not on your shelf versus on your shelf and just sitting there. So we actually do have some Hexes in stock right now, speaking of the disc. So no surprise to see it up here. I think we had maybe one custom stamp throughout the year of the Hex. There's also some like Total Eclipse ones and stuff like that. But really, it was just the stock Hex that carried this thing. Next up the list, coming in at number 15, we have my personal favorite disc, the Innova Thunderbird. This disc was helped out due to the Hunterbird release, which was my custom stamp on Halo Thunderbirds. In addition to that, there were some Tour Series ones, and then the stock Thunderbird, not Hunterbird. Stock Thunderbird just sold well. I absolutely love this disc. It's one of my farthest flying discs in my bag. It's a nice, consistent, reliable 9-speed, and I talk about it all the time in videos, so it was able to translate over to some sales here. I really enjoy throwing it, and apparently a lot of other people do as well. Next up, we have a newer disc in the Simon line, the MVP Time Lapse. This disc we saw with the Fission and the Neutron disc here, two kind of completely different flights. The Fission one's a little bit more agreeable, a little bit flippier, whereas the Neutron one is more what I think you're imagine the time lapse should be, closer to that like Destroyer level overstable. But Simon's popularity moves whatever disc his name gets put on, and this is another classic one of like, we just couldn't keep him in. We couldn't keep him in stock. No matter how many we were getting in, they were going right out the door. So very, very popular disc, the time lapse. I'm expecting that to be a staple in MVP's lineup for quite some time. While we're talking about staples in MVP's lineup, of course, coming in at number 13, we have the Crave. People who throw the Crave love the Crave. People who don't love the Crave typically haven't thrown the Crave. It's just a phenomenal 6-speed. It has a little bit of flip up to it, just dead straight, and it goes so far. So it gives you that comfort of a mid-range with the flight of a fairway driver. And as I was thinking through, if we did a run of Craves, I think it might have just been a podcast stamp. So I do not think we had like a crazy amount of custom Craves coming in and out of our doors this year. So that means, again, we're talking a lot of stock Craves moving. So it's one of the higher performing MVP discs. There's two more MVP discs we're going to get to later in the video that are farther up on the list, but the Crave was able to outsell a lot of really popular discs. Coming in at number 12, we have the Discraft Zone OS. Now, the Zone OS, we did have some custom stamps throughout the year. I know we did some Stob Mob Zone OSs. We also had some of the Get Beefies, which was Brody's work, like collab with Discraft, and I believe we had some Brody Smith Tour Series Zone OSs. So the Zone OS had a lot of different ways for you to buy it throughout the year. In addition to that, they had like Putter Blend and Jawbreaker and ones like that throughout the year. So the Zone OS is a newer disc in the Discraft lineup, and people absolutely love it, eating this thing up. So the Zone OS, not really a surprise in the top 15 here, whereas there are some ahead of it that are big surprises. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Coming in at number 11, this one surprises me in how popular it is, but it seems to be really popular across the board at pretty much every retailer, everyone who sells it. It makes sense. It just always surprises me how popular it is, which is the Innova Wraith. The Wraith is a disc that it's kind of like the Everyman's Destroyer. It's an 11-speed. It's more agreeable. It's a lot easier to find one that's going to flip for you right out the box. And I think what's happening is a lot of people are starting to discover that and fall in love with it. So the Wraith's kind of more comfortable in your hand than the Destroyer for a lot of people. It gives a lot of people the flight that they see pros have with the Destroyer. So no real surprise when you think of it that way. But when I first saw it coming in at number 11, it definitely confused me a little bit. Now we're on to the big boys, the top 10. The top 10 discs here. These are the best-selling discs from our site. Coming in at number 10, we have the Beaded Luna, the Discraft Kratos. So this one is Paul's Tour Series disc for this year. A lot of people tried the Kratos out and absolutely loved it, whether it be for putting, whether it be for throwing. It gives you a little bit more of that stability that a lot of people were hoping the Luna would still have. You can find it in the Kratos. That bead, A, adds a little more stability in my opinion, but B, what we know it does just scientifically is it helps the disc keep stability for longer. And so a lot of people have really fallen in love with the Kratos as a throwing putter. And then some Luna putters who wishes they had a bead, I'm a beaded putter guy, have switched over to the Kratos as well. So we saw it release in a bunch of plastics this year, and I believe the Tour Series plastic actually almost ended up being the initial release of this disc, and so people absolutely loved it. They ate it up. That Z-Flex Jawbreaker Kratos was flying off the shelf, so people were loving it, but it's not the best-selling putter on the list. Really, it's not even close because the next one up also beat it out. Here's surprise number 1. If you're a Foundation fan, it might not be a surprise, but the Gateway Shaman comes in at number 9 on the list. I got to be straight with you. This is purely due to the popularity of the Connor Shaman. The stock Shaman sales throughout the year are about what you would have expected. Pretty negligible. Wouldn't have even broke the top 100, I don't think, with just the stock Shaman sales. But the Connor Shaman, the Conman Shaman as we refer to it, it was wildly popular. I mean, just flying off the shelf. Every run that we've done so far has sold out. We're actually about to restock, depending on when you're watching this. It might have already happened with the brand new 2025 stamp. But for 2024, it initially released in our subscription boxes, which, by the way, I don't count subscription box sales in this because it's too hard to factor all of that. But it initially released there. So if I factored that, it'd probably even be way higher on the list. And then due to the popularity of that, we brought it out of the subscription box, redid the stamp so that you knew the subscription box one versus the stock one, and dropped it as a stock disc. And then the stock Shaman, the Connor Shaman, the stock Connor Shaman just sold phenomenally well from like the midpoint of the year on. So I expect the Shaman to probably still be here again next year. Maybe not in the top 10, given that so many people already have it, but it's probably going to be in the top 25 again next year. So I know that'll probably surprise a lot of you, but if you're a diehard Foundation fan, you're probably not surprised at all. Coming in at number 8, we have the Innova Destroyer. Of course, it's going to be up here. It's got to be up here. Probably a little lower than some people expected. It did beat out the Wraith. It almost doubled the Wraith's sales throughout the course of the year. So the Destroyer is still the most popular driver on our side, at least, from Innova. And really the most popular distance driver, I think, of the year as I'm looking ahead of it. Yeah, the Destroyer was the most popular distance driver sold this year for a great reason. It's the distance driver I think most discs want to be. It's incredible. So Innova Destroyer, no real surprise there at number 8. Coming in at number 7, the other Gateway putter, the Gateway Wizard, in at number 7 on the list. So 2 Gateway discs in the top 10. Bet you didn't see that one coming. The Wizard at number 7 is really due to 2 discs. The Robbie C Wizard and then the Big Con Big Fish Wizard. The Big Con Big Fish was a coffee blend wizard that released later in the year around Black Friday. The Robbie C Wizard was a kind of staple for people all throughout the year. He got his own blend, the Birdie Blend. It was like it's a stiffer plastic that still has some tackiness to it. People absolutely loved it. And then the Wizard in general is the best-selling Gateway putter, so the stock Wizard sales were pretty decent throughout the year. But when you add in the 2 custom-run Wizards we did, it makes a lot of sense. The Wizard is just a workhorse there. Coming in at number 6, we have the disc that I think most people at Foundation would claim is the best Discraft disc, which is the Passion. This disc has ended up in pretty much everyone at Foundation's bag. I think maybe one or two people don't like it for whatever reason, but it's just a very agreeable hand feel, great flyer, a little bit deeper than your average 7 or 8 speed, beautiful hyzer flip up. We can't say enough about this disc. We've had custom runs of it. The stock ones sold crazy well throughout the year. We got some of those. It's always a Passions in. The Page Pierce Tour Series Passion sold well. The Passion just always sells well. I don't see it slowing up anytime soon. It came in at number 6 there. Coming in at number 5, another surprise on the list that I think even if you are a diehard Foundation fan, this one might surprise you because this is the one that in the top 5 pretty much no one guessed in the office, which was the Finish Line Supra. This disc is here pretty much exclusively due to Trevor Staub's Supras. So Trevor got a legit Tour Series disc with Finish Line. It was available not just with us, but with other retailers. And when that release happened around February, March of last year, it was just crazy popular, flew off the shelf. That made up for probably 90% of the Supra sales. And then we brought the Trevor Staub Supra back for Black Friday, and that was pretty much the rest. The stock Supra sales were not super strong, but it's because so many people had already bought the Trevor Staub ones, so that makes perfect sense. Really solid disc, so it's out of place. I don't expect it to be in the top 25 again next year unless Trevor runs another Trevor Staub Supra, but I'm not expecting it to be in the top 25. I think that its sales without Trevor were outside the top 100, but when you factor in the Trevor Staub signature Supra, this thing was a workhorse, and rightfully so, earned a spot in the top 5. Coming in at number 4, the MVP Envy. This disc is just a workhorse for MVP. It is one of the best throwing putters on the market. We had some custom stamp ones throughout the year, and we had Eclipse ones, so many different stock varieties. There was just all kinds of Envies to be bought, and so the Envy coming in at number 4. I don't think anyone's surprised by that. I don't even think I really need to talk about it anymore. It's a great disc. Everyone knows it's a great disc. That's going to be the same for these next few. Number 3, the Discraft Buzz. I think some people might be surprised it's not number 1, but the Buzz from Discraft is just an absolute animal. There were so many different ways to buy it, so many different plastics to buy it in, and it's just such an agreeable mid-range. It just goes dead straight, with a little bit of fade at the end. As you beat it up, it becomes a hyzer flip machine. Pros love it. Amateurs love it. Everyone loves the Buzz. No shock to see it up here. The second best-selling disc, which first off, before I get to this, if you're watching this right now, why don't you go ahead and like the video and share it with someone who you think might be interested in hearing what our top 25 best-selling discs. Also, you might notice you're watching this on a somewhat new channel, Foundation Labs. Subscribe here for all kinds of insights, different practice-type content, different tutorial-type content, the weird, unique stuff we're going to try, like building out a all Clash bag for 30 days and whatever else we do. This second channel is where it's all going to live. So if you enjoy that type of content, you absolutely love disc golf content, or you just want to support Foundation, consider subscribing to the Foundation Labs and liking the video. Both those things are free and really help out the video and help out the channel. So be sure to check those out. But coming in at number 2, this was the other one that no one guessed, because I think we all just kind of forgot how popular it was, which was the MVP Pixel. This Simon Line Pixel took the world by storm. There was several different releases of it, and we had 1 or 2 custom stamps with it, but really the release of this disc was just wildly popular. Then you had the Music City Open Pixels. Then there were some other special edition Pixels. There was like some Halloween Pixels. Pixels were just flying off the shelf. If you just check it on like a random Wednesday, we don't have Pixels in stock, and that's because we can't keep them in stock. It's similar to most of MVP, where if we were buying way more and just holding it on the shelf, we probably would have sold a lot more. So sorry, MVP, that you're not taking up more of this list, but the Pixel coming in at second place. Now, what I will say is the disparity between second and first is pretty crazy. It's a pretty big jump. Number 1 best-selling disc of 2024 was the Discraft Zone. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Hunter, this is probably just due to that big old run of Aceathon ESP Jawbreaker Zones y'all did back in the midsummer. We did sell a ton of those. That was awesome. Thank you all so much for your support. Hopefully you enjoyed the Aceathon. But what's crazy about it is even if I took all of those sales of that custom run out, right? We didn't sell a single Aceathon Zone. It still has, what is this, like 100-some disc lead over the Pixel. The Zone is just that popular. This thing's a workhorse. There were custom stamps to be bought all throughout the year. There was Ledgestone releases to be bought all throughout the year. And then the stock zone itself is just so popular. It's pretty much everyone's go-to approach disc. So many people are like, you can never have too many zones. I mean, you always want a zone in your bag. So it makes perfect sense. I think it's going to be a tough one to ever beat out for that top selling disc. So we'll see if a different one can do it next year. But comment down below and let me know what was the biggest surprise in the top 25 for you. Also, if you're interested in seeing the full top 100, check the link in the description to the top 100 best-selling discs blog we just posted over on our site. And let me know what surprised you on the top 100 list as well. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.